Good morning. Happy Monday morning. Glad you are here. You're starting the week off the right way. I can tell you that. I guarantee that. So I see we've got 6 people on the call, including me. So I would say it doesn't matter what the rest are. As long as we are here, we are okay, gang. So let's get started. You know, it's interesting because in my coaching sessions with people, it's kind of split a bit, and I wouldn't say evenly split, but it's, you know, about 70-30. I got 70 people who are panicking. I got 30% of the people who are doing okay, or are in fact doing great, which is very interesting because we're in the same market, all of us in the same market, you know, same state, same general market across the Wasatch Front, same interest rates, same buyer pool, same seller pool. And some people are panicked and other people are doing great. So it really begs the question as to why, you know, what's going on? And, you know, my response to that is that those who are panicking right now, they lack certainty. You know, when we lack certainty about anything, at least anxiety, I want you to think about that. Any circumstance in your life, maybe in the past where you were highly anxious, I guarantee you can tie it back to uncertainty in the situation. When we're certain about things, when we're familiar with things, when we know how things are going to turn out, or we feel comfortable in knowledge of how things are going to turn out, or that we're optimistic or positive, or if it's a process, you know, riding a bike, for example. I remember when I was 5 years old trying to figure out how to ride a bike, the anxiety that I felt, gang, it was like off the charts. I remember it to this day. There was so much anxiety. And I don't know how many of you relate to that, remember that, but I remember my dad teaching me, and I was horrified that he would let go of the bike. That please do not let go of my banana seat handle on the back there, right? Because if you do, I'm going to fall over and I'm going to get hurt. And I remember the first time I discovered that he was with me, but didn't have his hands on the bicycle. I like freaked out. And he, of course, he put his hand back on, and then when I wasn't paying attention, took it back off. And probably for the longest time, I was riding the bike there and without assistance and didn't know it. But we've all been in that situation, right, where there's great uncertainty because of lack of familiarity, or there's a lack of perspective. And so I really think that that's what's happening in today's marketplace, where you can literally get one agent who says, no, things are great. I'm doing more business. My business is up 20-30% compared to last year. Wait a minute. There are agents who have business that's up 20 to 30% this year. Yes, there are. And there's no reason it can't be you. And what I would say is if your business isn't up, at least up, I don't care what the percentage is, but at least up, I would tell you that there's some room for improvement, not on the market. Stop worrying about whether the market's going to go up or down. You never get to control that. And it makes zero sense that you would worry about or focus, spend any time, energy, or effort on wanting, wishing, hoping that the market's going to change, because you don't get to dictate when that will be. Because, gang, if we could, man, we would have done that a year ago. We never would have let it change. But we don't get to control that. The only thing we get to control is ultimately how we respond to what's going in the marketplace. And see, I know you all know that. I get that you know it. It's not a question of whether you know it. It's a question of whether you're doing anything about it. See, panicking, being anxious, wishing the market's going to change, that's not going to change anything except for your psyche, your confidence. It's going to destroy it. And then what you'll do is, like that deer caught in headlights, when that Mack truck is barreling down on them, what do? They don't run out of the way. They stop. They get in this apoplectic seizures, like, oh, and then bam, the truck can't stop because there's so much momentum. This thing just smacks them just square on. And of course, end of story, right? Well, that doesn't have to be your experience in this market. I guarantee you this, though. We're going to see plenty of real estate agents in this market get out because they don't know what to do. They've lost absolute perspective. They've lost confidence. And what they'll do is they'll give up because they don't think that they have any control, because interest rates are just what they are. The psyche of buyers and sellers is just what it is. And so I have to wait. Well, financially, I can't wait. So therefore, I guess I'll have to go out and get a quote unquote real job. Well, gang, I can't think of a more real job than real estate. This is a real job. It's so real that if you don't do it, you don't get paid. But if you do it really well, man, you can make yourself a millionaire, like literally a millionaire. And you can do that in this sort of market, because there are people who are making that sort of money in this market. So you have the ability to do that. So what's my point, I guess? Well, my first question is, what sort of market are we in? You know, are we an increasing market, a decreasing market, a flat market? Is it a buyer's market, a seller's market? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is this: we're not in any of those. We're in your market. We're in a great real estate agent's market. If you're a great real estate agent, and more specifically, a great leader in today's market, the way that it is, you're going to do exceptionally well. This is your market if you're that sort of person. Because if we look at the statistics, it's difficult to say that we're in a seller's market, or it's difficult to say that we're in a buyer's market. There's a lot of confusion and uncertainty out there. Interest rates are up, but it's easier for a buyer to go out and find a property in today's market than it was a year ago, or a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I mean, think about the lines that they had to get in, and the number of offers they had to compete against, and the number of times they made an offer and never got one. And that's not happening in today's market. So you could argue, well, it is a buyer's market, even though interest rates have gone up. Well, it's certainly not a seller's market, John. We don't have lines of people and, you know, multiple offers. Well, that's not true. There are people who are lined up, maybe not literally, but metaphorically, to offer on the right priced homes in the right communities, the right neighborhoods. We're seeing that, multiple offers on homes. So what is this? Well, I say it's a market of opportunity. And if you don't see that, then you're not looking at the right things. You're panicked. And when you panic, when you're anxious, and you cede control to things that you have no control over, the market, interest rates, inventory, prices, all of those things, then gang, you'll do well occasionally. But I want you to do well all the time, regardless of what the market is doing. And that's actually possible. Well, John, what does that mean? How is that possible? Well, number one, real estate, gang, is a business where people have to know that you're in business. You know, you're not McDonald's. You may be part of Century 21, the most well-known brand of real estate in the world, but people don't know you. They don't know that you're in the business of real estate. So people need to know that you're there. You need to get in the way of those potential transactions, because here's the thing: people are going to buy and sell real estate in this market. They're going to buy in any market. I remember back during the Great Recession, people thought, well, people aren't going to buy real estate. You know, they're not going to buy and sell homes. Well, that's when Everest started. It was in 2009. We were in the throes of the deepest recession since the Great Depression. And they don't just call it a recession, they call it the Great Recession, because it was tantamount nearly to a depression. And yet people were buying and selling homes. We built Everest during those times because people were going to die and estates have to be sold. People are going to get divorced and homes are going to have to be sold. Families are going to expand and they need more space. Families are going to downsize and the home's too big. People are going to get job transfers. People are going to have financial challenges and need to capture the equity out of them. There are all sorts of reasons as to why people are going to buy and sell real estate in today's market. The challenge is what we tend to do is we tend to project on other people our own psyche and say, well, I would never do anything in this market. I'm scared. I'm uncertain. I don't know. And as a result of that, then we eliminate all possibility of other people buying or selling real estate. And we think we just simply have to wait until interest rates go down. Well, you're going to wait until they go down to 2, 3, 4%? That's your plan? Because if that's your plan, it sucks. And I guarantee you that plan is going to cause you to go financially bankrupt in this business. That is not the right approach. The approach is to make certain that people know that you're in the business of helping people buy and sell real estate. You have to be the market expert. So what is the number one question that people want to know when you're in real estate? What do they ask of you? What is that number one question? Anybody answer that? Whether you do it with your mic or you do it in the chat. What's the number one question that people ask? Anyone? Bueller. Am I talking to myself? Who's there? Anyone? What's the number one question that people ask? I know everybody's waiting for somebody else to answer, so just somebody do it. What I would love is if all 10 of you at the same time answer the question. Sound like
They
the floor
say, how's the market?
Yes, thank you, Marin. And by the way, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
The question
Good
is,
to be
how's
here.
the
I know we're
market?
all here, just can't unmute.
Yeah, I know it is difficult. I was having the same challenge on mine. So the question is, how's the market? Now, let me ask you this question. Marin, do they ask you that because they want to know if you're doing financially well? Like, oh my gosh, is Marin doing okay? Is she making enough money to support her family? Is that why they're asking the question? And the answer is no.
Yes.
That is not why they're asking the question.
I think my people ask me that for that reason.
Well,
I'm
okay,
just
but that's a different conversation. Those are your A's.
Yes.
Your B's and your C's don't give a damn, right? As a general statement. But no, they're asking the question. Listen, gang, if you had an investment in the stock market, if you own some mutual funds, if you owned some bonds, and you were working with, say, Fidelity Investments, or you got some money in the bank, what do you expect that broker, Fidelity Investments, or your banker does on a consistent basis? What do you want them to do relative to the money you have invested? What do you expect?
I want them to keep me updated and know what's happening.
Bingo. They want you want to know what's happening with your investment. You want them to give you some perspective. And so whether it's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, they're sending you statements. Now, in today's world, most of those are done on an electronic basis. But old school, and still you can choose this, is they'll send you a report your bank sends you a report on a monthly basis, whether you want it old school printed through the mail or you can receive it online in your account. They give you perspective consistently without you asking the question. I want you to think about that. You don't call them up and say, hey, I wanted to know, how are my investments doing? If you had to do that, I can tell you, run away from that banker, that broker. If they're not consistently telling you what's happening to your money, they're not doing their job. I mean, my heavens, if they don't have the presence of mind to let you know which your $200,000 or $300,000 is doing, then my question is, well, how good are they at actually taking care of that money if they can't even take the time to let you know what's happening to it? You see where I'm going with this, game? You got people that you say are in your sphere, quote unquote sphere, whatever that looks like, and you acknowledge that their number one question is, how is the market? And yet, my question for you is, how many of you are actually doing that consistently, preemptively? Not when they call you or when you see them by chance or happen to run into them at the grocery store and they ask the question. No, at that point, it's game over. It's like you've already lost. You've just been given a gift that they actually took the time to ask that question, incidentally, by chance, as opposed to by design, where you reach out to people systematically, formulaically, like, this is my plan, this is my system, this is my formula, I follow it. My job is to make sure that I stay in front of my people, because there is so much uncertainty and anxiety out there, and they want to know, how is my investment doing? Or is it the right time to get into the market? Well, they don't know that. At least we would assume that they don't know it. What's worse is they know, but somebody else is the person who's telling them consistently. So the person you thought was in your sphere of influence isn't in your sphere. And here's the question I have for you: is how many people who are in your sphere, according to you, who actually aren't in your sphere? They're in somebody else's, because that other agent is doing a better job of answering that question of how is the market. I want you to think about that. How many of you have had a client, past client, or even a family member buy or sell a home from somebody else and not with you? It's happened to all of us, yes? And if it hasn't, it'll happen to you. And I have to tell you, that's your responsibility. That's your fault. It's my responsibility. It's my fault. Because if that's happening and it tells me we're not doing a good enough job or any job at all to make certain that the people we consider to be within our sphere, that they're actually in our sphere. So if we're not answering that question consistently, how is the market? I'm telling you, you're missing out on the number one opportunity that you have to build value with your clients or your potential clients. Because your sphere of influence doesn't have to be people that you actually worked with in the past. These are people who potentially will work with you in the future if you build the right relationship, if you offer value. So you think about what's happened with buyer and seller confidence in the last year. It's been completely wrecked. It's been wrecked. And if you allow yourself to go that same direction, well, then You will simply have to wait until the market changes. But if you recognize that it doesn't matter what's going on, as long as you stay informed and then you inform your client base, your SOI, and others, if you're proactively prospecting, physicals expired, just listed, just sold, whatever, that if you have that perspective and you go out there and you confidently share it and let people know what sort of market we are in, right? You preemptively answer that question that they all have, whether they ask it or not, they're thinking it. If you do that, what you begin to do is you get in the way. See, your job is to separate yourself from your competition. There's plenty of competition out there. You all know that. But if you aren't out there getting in the way, then you can't separate yourself from the competition. You never get an opportunity to separate yourself from the competition if this market doesn't know you exist. See, you might say, well, my sphere of influence knows I exist. Really? Do they? I mean, how many people in your database actually think about you on a daily basis or a weekly basis? How many really do? Now, some of you might say, everybody in mind think about me consistently. Well, that's because you do a great job of staying top of mind, that you remain relevant. And congratulations, great job for you. That's exactly what you should be doing. If the number one way that you should be getting business in the real estate profession is through your sphere of influence. Just imagine that every year that you set a goal of closing X number of transactions, 12, 24, 36, 48, whatever the number is, that every year you set that goal and you closed on that number of transactions and you did it through your sphere of influence or largely through your sphere of influence. Because there are agents out there who do exactly that. When I was in the business selling real estate, I got to a point where nearly 90% of my business was coming from my SOI. And this was 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I was making $350,000 to $400,000 annually from my sphere. And what was interesting is that if I looked at the amount of time that I was spending working with my sphere, not just prospecting, staying in touch with my sphere, but actually doing the transactions, it was around 15 to 20 hours a week. And that is not an understatement. That is a fact, 15 to 20 hours. And see, I didn't have to spend all the time, the 3 or 4 hours a day prospecting. It was much easier to have my phone calls consistently, my pop buys, my client appreciations, and all of those, do that systematically as opposed to reacting. I had a system, I had a plan, I had predictability and duplication in my business. And because of that, I would make, you look at that, $350,000 to $400,000 annually, nearly 20 years ago, what that would look like today. It'd be $1 million a year working with my sphere. Now imagine that, working 15 to 20 hours a week and making $1 million a year. Yeah, you're gonna have to leverage the ability of other people, a transaction coordinator, an assistant. But for $1 million a year, you do that, right? Well, so you're all capable of doing that. The question is, when are you going to start doing that? Gang, you have to make certain that you get in the way. And the place to start is with your sphere of influence. So many people want the magic pill, the secret sauce, the magic bullet. Well, if there is one, it's this. It's making certain. So you already all know this. And I'm not saying anything that you don't already know. All I know is that for the vast majority of you, you're not doing it. And that is the problem. I want you to think about that. That is the problem. You're going to wait for the market to change? Well, that'll be easier. I can just wait for the market to change so that I can become an order taker again. Okay, well, that can be a plan, and you can do that. I don't know how well that's going to work out for you financially, how much money you have in the bank where you can do that. If you do, great. And if that's your plan, awesome. But if you don't have the financial resources to wait until the market changes, whenever that's going to be, right, then do what you know you should do. It would have the highest impact. It's always easier to do business with and to get business from those who like, trust, and respect you already. And that's your sphere of influence. So start there, okay? If you're at all panicked or worried about what's going on in this market, I'm here to give you the answer so that you'll stop being anxious and panicked. I want to give you certainty because you need certainty. I need certainty. We all need certainty. We're humans. We all act more confidently when we are certain. And I am here to tell you with absolute certainty that if you will focus on your sphere of influence, if you will get out of your own head and stop worrying about the market and what's happening, when things are going to change, and oh my gosh, if you will just simply get out of your head and start focusing on those people that you say are in your sphere and check in on those people and start offering value and start giving them perspective on what the market is doing, I promise you, you are going to find opportunities because, gang, people are still buying and selling in today's market. Remember, I know agents in this company where their business is up 20 and 30%. And it's because they're staying close to their sphere of influence. It is always easier to do business with people you trust. And the people in your sphere are going to want to work with you when it comes time because there's a death, there's a divorce, there's a marriage, there's a downsizing, there's an upsizing, there's a job transfer. When they like, trust, and respect you, they're going to want to work with you, but they have to know that you're actively in the business. They have to feel confident in you because there is so much uncertainty there. But you cannot afford to be the person who is uncertain, at least not in the business of real estate. You don't have the luxury of being uncertain because you cannot give to others what you don't possess. You can't expect your potential buyers or sellers or your sphere of influence to be confident in letting you help them when you're not confident and certain. You don't need to know what's going to happen over the next 90 to 180 to 365 days in the real estate market. You don't need to know. I don't know. It might go up, it might go down. That does not matter. The only thing that matters is that I know what it's going to take for me to remain relevant. And that's communicating with the people who like, trust, and respect me, my sphere of influence. So I just want to cover this with you, gang, because this is not complicated. I want to hand you something that is really simple, that gives you something that you can grasp on. That if you feel like you're drowning in today's marketplace, that this is your rock of Gibraltar. This is the buoy out in the middle of the water. This is the lifeguard coming to save you. Start with your sphere. And whether you've got a sphere that you've been working with very actively, or you've got one that you've neglected and it looks pretty shabby, it doesn't matter. Make certain, number one, that you take an inventory of that database of those people. I don't care if it's on sheets of papers and in files, or if it's in your phone, or if it's organized precisely in Excel or even in a CRM. But make certain you take an inventory and figure out, and I would do this step by step. Number one, take an inventory, categorize people, make certain that you know who the A's are, who the B's are, and who the C's are. And I'm going to define this for you. And I'm going somewhere with this. So just please follow this plan. The A people are your raving fans. These are the people who go out of their way to make certain that they give you referrals. If they've got a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, a stranger that they met in an elevator, if they find out that that person is looking to buy or sell real estate, they will go out of their way to get that person your information, but they'll also get that person's information and give that information to you. Now, you all know who I'm talking about because you have people in your sphere who do that. Those are your raving fans. Those are the A's. Then there are the B's and the C's. Now, who are they? Well, the B's are the people who they'll work with you. Right? They're going to buy or sell real estate with you, but they won't necessarily go out of their way to give you referrals. But they will give you a referral if you ask. If you call up and say, hey, do you know anybody? They'll give you a referral. Right? Your job is to make certain that you stay in contact with those B's and coach them up to an A. We want as many people to be A's. Okay. Rarely will you find it that there's any competition in getting the business from the B's. Rarely will a B say, well, we're considering looking at another agent as well. Sometimes those are the marginal B's, but the B's are the people who will definitely work with you. They're not going to go out of their way to give you a referral, but they'll give it to you if you ask. And then you have the C's. There's going to be competition in working with them, and they're definitely not going to go out of their way to give you any referrals, right? And your job is to coach them up to a B. So John, you say, I'm supposed to coach up the C's to B's and the B's to A's. Well, how do I do that? Well, you do that by consistently reaching out to people. See, you have to build value and you have to build rapport. And the greater the rapport and the greater the value, the more likely it is that you're going to have a strong relationship with these people. The more safe you make people feel, the more certain people feel, the more likely it is that they're going to want to work with you because they'll feel more confident, they'll feel more safe, more secure. And that is the number one value in today's market that you can provide to somebody, helping them feel safe and secure. In fact, the truth is, it's the number one value you can offer to anybody in any market to help them feel safe and secure. So see, if you're consistently, proactively reaching out to people and answering that question, whether it's through social media posts, whether it's through mailers, through the US Postal Service, whether it's through email or phone calls, it doesn't matter the method, the mode of giving that information to them. If you'll do it consistently, I promise you that you'll build value, you'll build rapport. And when you build value and rapport, in real estate, you will have a large, strong army of people who will work on your behalf to ensure that ultimately you're successful. The number one question that you need to ask is, how is the market? Because that is the number one question that people have. So what would you say to people in the phone call, on the social media post, which, by the way, I believe should be a video of you giving them perspective, or the information that you mail to them? Well, in business, they're called KPIs. KPIs. They're called key performance indicators. In any business, whether it's manufacturing or hospitality or auto manufacturing, there are what they call KPIs. And for each of those industries, the KPIs differ, the key performance indicators. They're not the same. Well, in real estate, the key performance indicators, at least the top four, are these, and I want you to write this down. The four top key performance indicators are KPIs. And gang, the reason I'm covering this with you is because you're a business owner. Each and every one of you owns a business. And the more you treat what you have like a business, the more profit you'll make in your business. But if you treat it like a hobby, you treat it like something that is given to the winds and the whims of the marketplace, then you won't have a business. What you'll have is a hobby at best that you'll make some money when the market's good. Well, I want you to make money in the market regardless of what the market's doing. So the KPIs in real estate are this. The top four. Number one, interest rates. So write that down, interest rates. The second KPI is inventory. Inventory. That's the second KPI. Then the third KPI is days on market. That is a key performance indicator. It indicates how the market's doing, days on market. And then the fourth one is average sales price. That's a key performance indicator. See, key performance indicators indicate what's going on in the market. That's what they call them, key performance indicators, right? It makes sense? So you've got these four key performance indicators. Now, if somebody were to ask me, John, how is the market? I could tell them what's going on with interest rates. I can say, well, interest rates are about 7.5%. And inventory, I'm just going to make up some numbers, gang, because it depends upon your market and how large your market is. In the market today, there are 696 homes listed. And average days on market is 25. And the average sales price of those homes is $562,000. Now, those numbers are going to vary depending upon your market, right? I've given you some perspective, right? I've given you those key performance indicators. The problem is I really haven't given you much perspective. I've given you some perspective. It lets you know what those things are today. But what would create a lot more value for people and really answer the question, how is the market? See, they want to know, is the market going what? Is it going up, or is it going down, or is the market what? Flat. What's going on? What's happening with my investment? Is my investment going up? Is it going down? Should I get in the market, get out of the market? I don't own a home. Should I buy it now? Is it a good time? Should I wait? Well, this information is a great way to start that conversation and keep people informed. You want to be top of mind. You want to be considered the expert on all things real estate, so that when they see a sign for real estate, whether it's a Century 21 sign or a KW sign or a Coldwell Banker sign or an EXP sign, if anybody knows that is, right? Or any other real estate company, when they see a real estate sign, they think of you, the expert. They have come to know and love because you proactively answer that question. How is the market? So those are the four key performance indicators. They have some value, but if you want to give them much more value and you want to give them much more perspective, then let them know what those numbers are relative to the past. The past could be last month, could be last quarter, or it could be last year. So one of the things that you should be doing with your sphere, gang, is this. Remember, I talked about a plan. Number one, start with your sphere of influence. Take an assessment. How many people do I have? How many are A's? How many B's? How many are C's? Which B's am I going to coach up to an A? Which C's am I going to coach up to a B? Trying to build the largest army of people who are, on my behalf, going to go out and find business, right? I start there. Then I begin to go out and reach out to those people, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's social media posts, whether it's a mailer on a quarterly basis. And I answer that question, how is the market, proactively with these key performance indicators? And I let them know what those numbers are today versus a month ago, versus last quarter, versus a year ago. And when I do that consistently, gang, I do everything that I need to do to position myself as the expert in real estate, period. And because I've done this consistently, I remain top of mind. So those C's and B's are more likely to reach out to me when it's time to buy or sell. And I'm not just relying on my A's. So I want you to think about this. We'll finish with this. If you knew exactly how many A's you had, what would you say that is? Write that number down. You don't need to tell me. You don't need to announce it. But I want you to just think about that number. How many people are your A's? Remember the A's. They're your raving fans. Those are the people who are going to go out of their way to make certain that if they know somebody who's looking to buy or sell real estate, they're going to reach out to you and let you know. And of course, it's a given. When it's time to buy or sell, they're going to work with you. There's never going to be any competition. It's never a question. How many of those people do you actually have? Whatever that number is, write it down. See, the goal is there's one of you trying to capture as much business as you can on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. But when you have an A, it's like duplicating yourself. So some of you wrote down none. I don't have any A's. Some of you wrote down maybe 2 or 3. Some of you maybe wrote down 10 names. Whatever the number is, I want you to think about this. Each one of those A's is a duplication of you. You basically created a clone of you. The goal is to create an army of you going out there looking for business of opportunities for people who want to buy or sell real estate. And that's how I did it. I had this small army of people, about 20 people, where they were just so consistent. They were constantly on the lookout. Anytime they heard anybody talk about real estate, they got me that lead. And that's how I made that sort of money, working 15 to 20 hours on a weekly basis, because they were my army. They were my prospectors. I want you to think about that. If you could get to that point where that was going on, where you had an army of 10, 15, 20, 30 people, 30 of you out there prospecting and looking, what would your business look like? You know, it's so interesting. I remember when I sat down with Brenda Lee, gosh, it's been 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago. She said to me, she said, John, I'm not going to prospect. I just want you to know that. And what's so interesting is that she ended up doing it. And I've watched what she's done with her business in that period of time. And then what that's done for her financially and the investments that she's made and how she set herself up and her family for years and years to come. Gang, real estate is such an abundant profession. It's such a great way to build a future. It's not just a job. It's a career. It's a business that won't just, build a financial future. It'll build a life. It'll create such great opportunities for you. But you have to pay attention to the simple stuff, the fundamentals. And this is one of the fundamentals. So many of you want to know the secret sauce, or what that agent's doing, or how are they doing that? I'm handing it to you right here. I can't force you to do this. You can try to complicate it and, get ready and say, well, I got to create all this stuff. And, I want to do this complicated mailer, and I want to do this complicated thing. This brochure, this form, or this platform that I want to create on social media. And stop that. Those are just excuses to just not do what ultimately you should be doing. Look, the quickest and easiest way is to pick up the phone and to just have the conversation. Brenda Lee, hey, how are you? How are you doing? Great. How's the family? Great. How's real estate? It's great. In fact, every one of my clients asked me that question. So let me give you some indication right now. And then give them the key performance indicators very quickly. Digest it for them and tell them. And then ask for help or ask for the business. And do the same thing on social media. Record yourself. Just a quick 60-second digestion of what's happening with the key performance indicators. This is where interest rates are today. This is where inventory is today. This is where the average days on market is today. This is the average sales price today as compared to a month ago, a quarter ago, a year ago. And do that consistently, gang. And if you look, the key to success is doing something of high impact consistently. And over time, you'll build exactly what it is that you're trying to build, and you'll get exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish. But if you dabble in it, if you go from one thing to the next, trying to find a different or better answer or the answer, and overlook this one, I'm telling you, you're going to struggle for your entire career. When I watch agents who do struggle their entire career, and I know agents, who've been in the business 10, 15, 20 years and struggle every year to get the business, like struggle. You don't have to do that. You don't. But you've got to You got to recognize the fundamentals. You got to look at the formula and stick with the formula. Don't overcomplicate it, but follow it. See, if you'll follow the formula, it'll work for you. And this will work for you. I promise it will. I know there isn't anything here that I presented today that you really haven't heard. Maybe I said it a different way. Maybe I said something that resounded with you today, or maybe I said something here today that actually irritated you, or you listened to it and said, I don't know. I mean, he says this, but I don't think that's my challenge. Well, as long as you're getting enough business from your sphere of influence right now to achieve exactly what you want financially, then you're probably right. But if your SOI isn't giving you everything that you need financially in order to achieve your goal that you set for yourself this year, then I would tell you there's a lot of room for improvement in your SOI. So I would look at it, take the time, take the energy, put it together, don't overcomplicate it, and don't wait to start doing it now. This is not complicated. Every one of you could get these key performance indicators today, what they are today relative to what they were a year ago, and then just start picking up the phone and calling your sphere of influence. Start with the A's, go to the B's, go to the C's, and just go through. Don't cherry pick. Just go through and start having conversations with people. If there are people in that list that you're afraid to call, then don't call them. Get rid of them. Only have people in your list that you're going to call and start from there. So gang, any questions, any thoughts before we wrap this up? I hope this is helpful. I'm giving you the gold. I hope that you'll accept it because it is the goal. If you actually take it and use it, it will work. I promise you. There's no reason it can't.
I guess my
Oh.
comment was, and I put it in the chat, thank you so much for helping me learn how to submit to the process. It's a process, it's a plan, and you just work it. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it's step by step. It's not complicated. There really are simple steps. We get overwhelmed and try to make it bigger than what it is. No, gang, you don't have to do all of these things. All I want you to do is start with your list, get your KPIs, perspective, what it is today versus a year ago, and just start making those calls. You have to get in the way. People need to know that you exist. They need your help. There is uncertainty, and you are the voice of certainty, of reason, of calm. If you will do that, man, you'll separate yourself from the competition. So, okay, gang, great job in joining me. And
thank you, John. Hey, John,
very
really
welcome.
quick, I just wanted to add to Brenda Lee's comment.
Yeah.
Just coming home and being here for the past couple of months and then rejoining Everest is like a real sweet homecoming for me personally. And what I've noticed is as I'm reaching out to industry folks to just say, hi, I'm back, the reception of that and the reaction has been so wonderful to reconnect with people. And I think that the lesson and my takeaway from just doing that and reaching out to my familiar folks within my SOI is to get out of my own way with my past, my walls and my limitations that keep me boxed in. And, and last week you said, let's get out of the box. And so I got out of the box by calling around people that were familiar to me and just getting the word out that I'm back. Because the truth is that I really enjoy those conversations, but I think that we tend to feel like there are walls in front of us that are so high to climb and it's going to be tough and arduous, but it's not. It's really rewarding to make yourself known and do the little things like you've mentioned here. And, it'd be send out a graphic or a CMA to somebody. And that's what I'm planning on doing. So thank you for the inspiration today. Much appreciated.
Of course, you bet. Yeah, it's interesting how our mind will create this wall because it makes up all of these scary stories and these thoughts. And the challenge with you're focused on the wrong person when you do that. Stop doing that. Just focus on that person. How can I serve them? How can I help them? Look at them as somebody who is in need. It's very selfish when we do that, really, if you think about it. We're focused on ourselves. That's what fear is. Because if you're focused on you, you're fearful. When you focus on them, you're strengthened. It's like, of course I can help. I'm here to help. That's what I do. And you need my help. Of course I'll help you. So it's really important that we start from that perspective. Like, how can I help you? I'm here to serve. So.
Yep.
All right, gang. Great job. Thank you. And if you need any help on any of this, or you want to sit down in a one-on-one coaching session, happy to help with this. But man, this is the key to your success long-term in this business. So go out there and do it.
Thank you,